Hey everyone, before we start, just want to remind you that I am partnered with Main Gear PCs now. You can check my link in the description if you are interested in getting a pre-built PC. They just sent me a new rig and it looks absolutely amazing. They did a great job on the case and I'm looking forward to getting around to messing with this thing pretty soon. Okay, video time. Titans, I know that the build crafting world in Prismatic isn't as exciting as some of the other classes. But that doesn't mean the builds that you have access to are bad. In fact, they're quite potent. Let's talk about two setups that are excellent, that don't require an exotic class item. It should not come as a shock that Knockout and Consecration is the go-to Prismatic 101 setup, whether you have an exotic class item or not. It should also not surprise you to hear that you're gonna put on Synthoceps. Sure, Pyrogale gets you that Cyclone, but I don't think the exotic slot is worth it for that effect alone without burning Maul. So Knockout, Consecration, throw them on, and then your choice of grenade. I go for Shackle because you're going to be doing a lot of light-based damage, and then Frenzied Blade for 3 melees for 3 consecrations. I will say that accidentally using your Frenzied Blade instead of a consecration can be particularly devastating if you don't have the strength stat or the fragments to replenish that energy, so be careful with your slides and spamming the button. Aspect-wise, Facet of Dawn is a pretty easy staple. All you're doing in here is powered melee hits. You're going to be getting a lot of final blows too, passing Radiant to your teammates. You should be nearly permanently Radiant with Radiant Orbs from the artifact as well, although if you are comfortable with getting Radiant from Radiant Orbs while it's in the artifact, you can skip Facet of Dawn for now. Facet of Balance is another easy staple. Rapid kills with light damage give melee energy. This is the engine that is going to keep you running. This is what will be restoring a lot of your melee energy so that you never run out unless you are just spamming it way too much. From there, I round things out with the following. Sacrifice, Darkness Transcendence energy when you get ability final blows with a light-based buff on you, which you should have pretty much all the time. Protection, I don't think is 100% needed in lower tier content at all. It is much more for higher level activities where you are actually at risk of death, so feel free to swap this in and out as you see fit. Purpose is great, except that a lot of people are using Twilight Arsenal right now, and Overshield is arguably one of the weaker effects that you can get from Purpose. It's still an Overshield though, it's not like it's a net negative or anything, but I could see people also living without this if you're running Twilight Arsenal. If you're running anything else, it's definitely more worth it. Other flex options include Grace, if you're on a kinetic weapon, Awakening, if I guess you're running Glacial Quake for more melee energy. Solitude is more of a utility play, like Sever is really good, but it's mainly for higher level stuff. I don't think I'm going Blessing though, you shouldn't really need the health regen. The artifact is loaded with prismatic stuff. I would just be scooping everything prismatic, maybe minus Void Hegemony unless you plan on doing a lot of weakening. Elemental Siphon for those of you running kinetic weapons. Nothing really too complex here. It is the episode of Prismatic, so just pick up the prismatic things. I know some things like Shield Crush aren't working 100% correctly as of this video, but I'm just under the assumption that eventually anything that is not working properly will eventually work properly. Stats-wise, I like to run with high res and high strength. I have found the convenience of high strength to be suitable to my playstyle. If you don't care for that, then you can just stack more discipline. That's totally fine. I don't think you need recovery as much unless you find yourself really needing that health regen, which, given what Knockout does, I don't think you really should, but it's there if you want it. Mod-wise, I emphasize melee mods, but I'm not stacking them too hard. One hands-on, one heavy-handed. I am not using Consecration fast enough to warrant more than one heavy-handed mod outside of when I'm Transcendent, and when I am Transcendent, I don't need to care too much about orbs because my melee cooldown is really short anyway. If you find yourself doing more consecrations or you want to lean into that style of play more, you want to use multiple hands-on mods, you want to use 3 hands-on mods, go for it. I like a nicer mix of gun perks and melee perks. I go for surges on my boots. If you wanted to stack orb-based things as well, I think that's fine too. Class item isn't too revolutionary either. Time dilation for surges, powerful attraction to scoop orbs. You get it. If you're not doing that kind of stuff, you could just do outreach times 3 and call it a day. This build is pretty self-explanatory. Use consecration. The setup enhances your consecration to the fullest. Health regen, big explosions, and massive chunks of transcendence energy. In between, you're using your weapon to take down stragglers. I'm pretty picky about when I'm activating consecration. I like to make sure that I'm hitting a healthy group of enemies or a big target, but in lower tier content, there will be times where by the time you go up and then come back down, that a group of enemies will already be dead because of a teammate. Don't underestimate how hard consecration can hit, especially if you are igniting multiple enemies with the slam. This was bursting down champions in the right conditions, in the Master Raid, in Master Law sectors. Precision, patient use of consecration hitting big groups of enemies is well worth the payout if the moment is right. I do place a slightly greater emphasis on getting Transcendence on Titan because their grenade is arguably the best of the 3, but also that you can get it so ridiculously fast and stay in it for a long period of time if you build for it, which we kind of do here in my example. It's also a really good way to get back some melee charges in case of a misplay, or maybe you got overzealous in a situation, or maybe you just didn't tag as many targets as you were hoping. Also keep in mind that Blade Fury will restore your melee charges after the super ends in case you need more melee charges or you just want to go absolutely berserk with the consecration spam. When it comes to higher difficulty content, you need to strategize a bit more than usual. I was still very successful using this build in Master Salvation's Edge to the point where it was actually a problem because I kept one-shotting Overload Minotaurs for the first challenge. I would say that Salvation's Edge is very friendly to this setup because 3 of the 5 encounters don't have a boss, and the 2 that do, being on this kind of setup, isn't really gonna hurt you. I don't know how much it's helping, maybe you want something different for your team, but it's not a bad setup. If I'm walking into King's Fall, on the other hand, sure, the setup technically works, but I just don't know how much value you're getting out of it because there's not a ton of opportunity for the build that is based on consecration spam to really shine. Legend and Master Law sectors are in kind of a similar situation. You need to know what you're up against to know whether or not the build is suitable. Some Law sectors are super condensed, close quarters combat. This build works great there. Other Law sectors, they're a bit more open, they're spread out, there's snipers around. The build, not so good in those. You don't have Solar Surge, maybe you want to wait it out, maybe you're not that comfortable without a Surge. GM Nightfall's kind of a similar situation. You're a lot more fragile in those situations, and your teammates will get tired of picking you up 50 meters ahead of them because you went for a consecration. The less comfortable you feel with playing a melee setup, obviously the less I'm going to encourage it. Playing a melee setup requires a bit more intimate knowledge of encounters and play spaces to take advantage of melee builds because there's a lot more finesse and risk that's involved. Now, if you do want to get off consecration, which eventually you will, you're probably headed to Thunderclap City. Thunderclap did get some nice buffs in Final Shape, mainly the whole, damage resistance while charging the attack thing. And fortunately, there are a multitude of ways to stack other damage resistances, especially in Episode 1, with the artifact giving an extra benefit that we don't normally get. You have 2 options for this setup: Insurmountable Skull Fort or Point Contact Cannon Brace. Personally, I am a big contact enjoyer. I like the big punch with the big AoE, but the drawback is that it isn't a guaranteed restoration of your Thunderclap. It gets you a chunk of the way there if you hit a good amount of targets, and I like to try to hit a good amount of targets every time that I punch. It's fun. I like the precision. I like the timing of trying to hit a lot of enemies at once. But Skull Fort is a much more reliable choice if you're just looking to do as many big punches as humanly possible, because all you need is a single kill to restore your melee completely. So you just punch and punch and punch, small punches, medium punches, big punches, whatever you want. I will try to address both options here, but I think people are going to lean towards Skull for it. So, Thunderclap, check. Knockout, check. Grab Diamond Lance and your choice of grenade. Obviously, Shackle is going to work very, very nicely, keeping targets steady for you to then punch in the mouth. Fragments. Honestly, if you wanted to keep the exact same fragments from the first build, some kind of variation, I wouldn't really blame you at all. It's a great setup. You know, Dawn powered melee attacks for Radiant. It sounds pretty good, but just keep in mind that you're mainly going to be slaying with your melee, which doesn't get any benefit from Radiant. If you're in a team, you can give your teammates Radiant pretty much permanently, though. And if you're fighting barrier champs, it will be your ticket to breaking shields. Sacrifice seems really applicable here, but given how much darkness energy you'll be making through your Diamond Lances and like the AoE attack that you do, when I playtested, I didn't really notice the loss of this fragment too much. I think you can swap it out for other stuff that we'll talk about. Resistance is great for any content where your life is actually threatened to some degree, but I don't think it's needed for lower tier stuff because the stakes just aren't as high. Purpose is great. Overshield, I think, is a bit weak compared to the other options available, but I know that people really like Twilight Arsenal. It's pretty good, and a free Overshield is still, you know, nice to have. Balance is good for the times where you whiff the melee, which will happen. Do I think it's 100% needed? No, it's more of a nice to have if you can have it, though. There's some other options available, too. Courage. You're going to be throwing around a lot of Diamond Lances at targets. That's a darkness debuff. Generosity or Justice also work. You should be Transcendent quite often. Those aren't terrible, although Generosity is mainly if you're in a team. Even Ruin is some level of viable. Just make sure you're hitting good Diamond Lances. This is going to increase your AoE potential as well. All of these are good options. You just need to pick what's applicable to you in a given situation. If you're solo, for example, maybe you skip out Facet of Dawn unless you're on point contact cannon brace, then you'll want to be on your weapons more, so then Radiant is good. Or maybe you're fighting champions, then you're going to want to have Radiant for anti-barrier. Just a quick example of you needing to build towards what you're actually doing. For a solo setup, try like Purpose, Courage, Ruin, Justice, and Resistance if you're in higher level activities. Maybe Dawn if you need Radiant for anti-barrier needs. Team setup, maybe skew more towards team-based buffs, team assists, or don't, and just continue to do your thing. Stats-wise, the biggest thing is 100 resilience. Get that as priority number one. Outside of that, I think running 100 strength is potentially hit or miss. If you ever whiff with a melee, which is going to happen, you'll be really glad that you have it. But if you're hitting most of your melees and actually killing stuff with it, maybe you're in lower tier content, you might never need it. The more comfortable you feel, the less I think you need it, but the more difficult the content is, the more I think you'll want it. Every other stat is kind of whatever. You know, discipline is always nice to have if you can get it. Recovery, I don't think you should need too much, but it's never a bad stat. Artifact-wise, you can keep it similar to the previous setup, but at the very least, Galvanic Armor is a must. You're going to be amplified all the time. Radiant Orbs is a nice to have, and honestly, like, what are you really scooping anyway in a pure punch setup like this? Maybe some sword things if you're that dedicated to the melee life. Mod-wise, stack, melee, everything. Hands-on, double stack it, triple stack it, I don't care. Heavy-handed on gloves, it's probably worth going triple stack, double at a minimum. Chest, grab resistances. Melee resist sounds enticing, but I usually like a nice even spread of Arc Solar Void until I'm shown that there is a reason to swap. Legs, forget the surge mods, grab recuperation since you're going to have tons and tons of orbs everywhere, and then round it out with some other ability juicers, whether it's double absolution, double innervation, whatever you want, leaning towards whatever you actually use. Class item, stacking more bomber. Maybe you want a powerful attraction. I'm not sure you really need it with you being on top of many of the orbs as they spawn. What is this build? This build is for slaying the hell out. What is not this build? This build is not for single target damage beyond a certain threshold. You don't know who you are. You don't know why you're here. All you know is that you must punch. In lower tier content, you will just obliterate everything a lot. everything is going to die to your melees, and you will be very alive while charging the melees. This is really self-explanatory to the point where I feel like I could just stop here, to be honest. Even in higher level content, I'm talking Master, I'm talking GM, most lower and mid-tier enemies, I'm talking like Thrall and Dregs and Acolytes and Vandals, things like that, red bars, maybe some orange bars, they're all likely to die to a single punch, and you will probably not die. You are also going to get even more opportunity to go Transcendent because of all the Diamond Lances you're going to be throwing around, to the point where you might fill up on Dark Energy before Light Energy. Make sure you're using the AoE attack that you can do with the Lances. You're going to AoE freeze everything around you to then follow up with a big punch. Grab every Diamond Lance that you can possibly pick up and use them. You should be able to go Transcendent like once a minute at a minimum if there's enough stuff to kill. The issues start to arise in higher tier content or when you're dealing with champions, specifically in a solo environment. Thunderclap is not one-shotting champions. It is maybe dealing half HP to champions with Arc Surge, with Facet of Courage, at full charge, in content that's higher level than you. You will not kill champions in one hit. And if you are killing champions in one hit, you are in content that is not really that high stakes. You might not even kill some higher tier enemies like Knights or Centurions or Servitors, whatever, without a debuff or without some planning. And this is where you need to play much, much more carefully and deliberately. You need to plan your route. You need to have some kind of strategy in mind of how you're going to handle a champion or a higher level situation. You pop your super, you pop Transcendence to chain some suspends and get many more melee attack opportunities, things like that. You make sure a darkness debuff is applied to deal bonus damage with courage. I was using a chill clip fusion. You could do a strand slice weapon. You could do Facet of Solitude for all I care. But if you're just coming into a fight with a melee charge and a $20 bill pinned to your shirt, you need a better game plan. And even if you have a game plan, something will go wrong at some point. You won't deal enough damage to kill something with your melee, or maybe your melee just whiffs. It's most likely one of those two, but maybe your jolt from your Transcendence grenade kills something as you're about to punch it. Now you got nothing around you, and you just lost your melee charge. Losing your melee when on Skullfort is pretty devastating, and it happened to me often enough that I felt like my investment in 100 strength was worth it in higher level, especially solo, content where you are most likely to have that failure moment. If you wanted to run a double special weapon setup, I think that is an option, considering how much of the killing you're going to be doing with your melee. You could do double rocket sidearm kind of situation. You could use Buried Bloodline, get some Devour as well. That's going to give you more grenades to give you even more control. A Chill Clip Fusion and Buried Bloodline gives you Unstop two different ways as well, at least in episode 1, and a way to manually apply a Darkness debuff if you have no Diamond Lances around. Throw on a special finisher mod, you should be okay on ammo for a while. Again, these are things I think you only really need to think about in higher tier content. In lower tier stuff, even the raid, just like fighting enemies in the normal mode raid, I think you're going to be able to just punch your way out of a lot of problems. So those are two Titan setups that are really good, that require no exotic class item. Warlocks and Hunters, your builds should be coming very, very soon. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.